What was it, Nathan?
Welcome back to the...
How can you forget that?
Welcome back to The Watch. Today we have a very special video.
Very special.
Yes, today we
So special you need to be retarded to have a certain opinion on it.
Today we are talking about binging versus weekly consumption of media.
If you know some of the saga about this topic, you might have seen a heated discussion about this on Friday Night Tights, which was hilarious. Love you guys. And I was thrilled to find out that Tyrant here...
Yes, has a brain in his head.
He does.
I'm able to formulate a cohesive opinion on this.
And I love that he holds his own, even against, me mocking him for it and things.
All right. Okay.
And I'm glad that he holds his own even when he's objectively wrong as well.
All righty. Let's get into this. You want smoke? Let's do this. All right.
All right. So Tyrant, he believes. So we're talking about a show that is released at once, the entire season, all episodes, which is the binge model, versus a model where it's released episode by episode weekly. Okay.
Yes.
And Tyrant believes that the binge model. You tell me what the binge model is.
So,
what are your views on this?
Just down at its core, the binge model is better for the viewer. Now, I know a lot of your arguments revolve around business, and I don't care about it's good for business. I care about what's good for the viewer. Now, having a binge model allows you, as the viewer, to have more choice on how you consume that media. Now, your argument is you want the corporation to take that control away and force everyone.
It's called a straw man, of my opinion.
Okay.
You can interpret it that way if you wish.
Well, go for it.
Well, I feel there's a fallacy at the beginning of your logic, and that is that you don't care about what's good for the business.
Well, not particularly.
Okay, because the other way actually, not even other way, I think it's actually important to acknowledge that what is good for the business, if it means that the show has a higher chance of continuing on, a higher budget for the next season, higher quality, everything like that, what is good for the business is good for the consumer because it should lead to a higher quality product.
Right.
Or let me even clarify that. It gives higher ability for the producer, the company that's doing it, to be able to give. Because I'm not saying that, every company does this, but enables them. It gives them more options to be able to produce higher quality for the show and even just give higher chance for the show to continue.
This is true, but there are examples on both sides of the fence where binge model, like for example, if you take Stranger Things, that's released sometimes like half seasons, but for the most part, it's a full, something you can binge, and that was the biggest thing in the world for weeks on end, so it would have been a good return on investment. The same as something that's released weekly that generates hype and more discussion.
Well, see, the argument is, say, with Stranger Things, if it was released weekly, it would have been more successful because it would have given the audience time to talk about it episode by episode, which gives... That is one of the most significant things because word of mouth is so important for a show's growth. And my example for this would be House of the Dragon, right?
Okay, what about...
House of the Dragon was weekly release.
Yeah.
And interest on that was actually quite low, especially with how Game of Thrones ended. So many people were completely checked out and they were not going to watch House of the Dragons at all. And it was only especially if we look at, say, people who are against woke culture and stuff like that, and there was so much subversive marketing around House of the Dragon saying it's going to have this woke narrative, which just checked out so many people. It was still a big, big release, and so I was going to have a look at it to review it, and episode 1 was actually really good, and all the woke narrative around it was false. If it was released in once, there wouldn't be much time for, to give people, hey, it's actually good. But with it being weekly, right, that created a lot of discussion around episode 1, and that gave a lot of time for people to hear the arguments, the reviews, and be converted around to it.
I want to ask you a very quick question. Would you have watched all of Andor if it released all at once?
No.
Right.
Why?
So it gives you more choice to see if a show is...
Well, the choice thing I'll come to anyway because I feel there is choice. You can wait till it's all released and then binge it once it's all released.
I don't think using fan metric or fan engagement is a valid argument because there are examples for things like Squid Games. That was the biggest thing in the world for a while. Stranger Things was on the top of the charts for months. So, and they were all dropped at once.
But see, the what you need to address
Comes down
is
to good media.
well, what you need to address is would it be bigger if it was released weekly? And that's what my argument is. I feel because there's more time for the discussion to happen, and especially episode. Because for instance, when a season drops. It's really hard to talk about episode by episode. I'm facing this with Wednesday, which is Wednesday, Addams Family reboot, right? The entire season is dropped.
Yeah.
And there's so much to try and cover because it's an entire season to do it justice, to even talk about why is it bad, why is it good, without I don't have time to do a really detailed explanation of episode 1. And if I do that, there's other people talking about the season, spoilers and all that stuff. And if it was restricted to only episode 1, it gives me so much more ability to focus in on what is working with the show, what's not, which creates that additional discussion, which is lost if the whole thing is released. And that additional discussion is such a powerful thing to drive greater interest and attention and for, the business side of thing. For like more reviews. For instance, Wednesday, I'm going to do 1 review. If it was episode by episode, I would do multiple reviews per episode.
Right, but
that's marketing, that's interest, that's discussion.
But what you're talking about right now is our job. We're doing our job, and it's our job to do this. So you're saying for our job it would be better, which is true.
But it's better for the people making the show. Like several reviews, like this is the House of Dragons thing. I had multiple review. I reviewed every episode, and nearly every single one was praising the show. Instead of just one review praising the show, they have multiple reviews praising each episode, and that is hugely beneficial from a business standpoint.
Yeah, again, it's a business argument. It's not a choice
but remember,
argument.
it goes back to what's good for the business is good for the customer because it increases viewership, it increases the money that'll earn, and that means it should increase the budget and focus and production quality for season 2.
So do you think that Stranger Things season 4 or Squid Games didn't make money?
No, I'm saying it would have made more if it was released weekly.
Right, but they were worldwide phenomenons.
They
So
were
it's
good,
like,
but
how
hang on,
much
you need
bigger
to
can
address
they
what I
get?
just said. It doesn't matter how much. If it's better, it's better.
Yeah, but
Am
at
I
a certain
wrong?
point, there's a ceiling to where
We
how
can't,
big
we,
something
we
can
can't
get.
predict how much better it would be, but I
But
feel I can
you're
say
saying you can predict that it would do
that
better.
it would be better. Just I don't know how better. It could have been hugely more successful. It could have been lower, but the fact that it has the chance of still even being hugely more successful is a significant thing to acknowledge. But the fact that I feel it's very likely, and you could, rely on this pretty firmly, or just by looking at, the pros and cons, that the weekly release is, and you kind of acknowledge this, that it's more beneficial business-wise. It's a better business decision.
From a business
So,
decision,
all right, so that
it's good. From a paying
okay, good.
customer decision, it's not
No,
good.
all right. So now we need to address my point is that what's good for the business is good for the customer because it gives higher probability and chance for a better product because it's more successful.
That's a very slippery road to go down.
All right, let's go down. That's the point of the discussion.
Well, Disney has recently upped the prices at their parks. Is that better for experience for the people going to the parks, or is that greed?
Okay, a couple of things, right? As to why they're doing it, there's a complex discussion about that because I don't know. I feel Disney is greedy and they could be raising it for disingenuous things. But the thing is, Disney's stock price is dropping like a crater at the moment, and if they're forced to do it to keep the parks open, what's the choice? Higher prices or close down the park entirely? From a business perspective, what's better for the customer? The customer wouldn't even have a product if the only choice is raise prices. And
then if
I don't know
your-
if this is the case for Disney, but for a lot of
If your
businesses,
product is not viable in the free market, then
yeah, but you should acknowledge that for a lot of businesses, sometimes that is the reality. It's like raise prices or go out of business. And what's better for the customer is probably having the product available than not.
I mean, if you want to make that argument, that's fine.
I do.
I'm
That is
more
my-
of let the free market have its way.
Well, that is the free market operating, though, that sometimes prices do need to be raised. But the thing is, though, that doesn't contradict what I was saying about the weekly release model, okay, can be very beneficial for the customer and actually probably is more likely beneficial for the customer because it gives higher chances that the show will continue, higher budget, and also, by the way, higher chances for more people to hear about the show because there's way more chance for discussion and buzz and reviews to happen. And so more viewership, more fan base for a show is hugely beneficial for the customer.
I don't know if I agree with that because, I mean, it just depends on the quality of the show. If it's a good show, people will talk about it and they will talk about it for a long
Oh
time.
yeah, I'm not saying it can't be successful if it's binge. I'm saying it gives much greater chances to be more successful weekly releases. And you did agree that it's better for the business model.
For a
And
business
so what
model,
we're
yeah.
moving on to then is that there is a follow-on effect that if it's good for the business, there is great benefit for the customer as well. You got to agree with that, can't you?
I mean, it's just how do you quantify that? Do you?
I've given several examples.
Well, all right, let's take something like Game of Thrones. That's a weekly model. Did the quality go higher as the seasons went on and more people were interested with more budget? Did it get better?
No, not necessarily. But are you trying to disprove a more, I guess, intuitive logical standard by an exception?
Well, no, it's more that just because you get more people listening and it doesn't mean you're necessarily going to get more.
That's
higher
true, but that would
budget.
be an exception. Can you disprove the rule that higher interest, bigger fan base, more reviews, more positive buzz, more success financially, right, will generally give higher chances for a better product for the customer in the long run?
Well, say no. You can't say that it's always going to be like that.
No, there will be exceptions, but generally, I'm speaking generally, you should.
In a general sense,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's my point.
fine.
Yeah.
But the same thing does happen with binge models. People do enjoy them. They do
I'm
get
not
judged.
saying, but remember the argument is that it's more successful weekly, which then follows through to having more benefit for the customer. And we can move on to the customer, sorry, you were going to say something.
Well, it depends how you define better for the customer. For example, I am someone who will wait the entire time until a show's out and then binge it.
Okay, good.
There's a reason why I don't watch normal television. There's a reason why television died. And people didn't like it. And then when Netflix first came around, people absolutely loved the idea.
Hang on. We need do you attribute the death of traditional TV because of binge model streaming?
I attribute it to that nobody could, like, for example, if it's Sunday, you have to, and this particular movie's on, you have to watch this movie. There's nothing else. You don't have any other choice.
Yeah, but the reason why streaming is so much more valuable, there's multiple reasons, and it's not just the fact that, because by the way, even with a binge model, you have to wait for the specific date of release. Okay, the convenience with streaming is that you can choose to watch it whenever you want once it's released, but that applies to binge and weekly.
Yeah, but I mean, waiting for something to actually release. I mean, that's with everything. I mean,
but so one, you wait for each episode to release. One, you have to wait for the whole thing to release.
Yes.
But the fact that you can still watch each episode whenever you want as it's released is the same convenience as if the whole season is. You just need to wait for each episode, and then you can choose to binge the whole thing once it's all released. And so for me, I actually don't see any loss of quality with technically either model. I think it's subjective taste. Now, you are perfectly entitled to have your subjective preference, but the argument is that what everyone prefers? I don't think so.
Think about it trying to make it fair.
Yeah.
What would be fair? If we're both paying for the exact same stuff. Now, don't go into terms of service because we're doing a thought experiment. I already know we're going to try and pull up on technicalities. So if we're paying for the same service. Now, let's say it's Netflix when it first released. Now, Netflix was known for and is still known for its binge model. It may not be in the terms of service, but when you were buying Netflix, that was pretty well established that that's what you were going to get.
I disagree.
How do you disagree with that?
Because it's an assumption. And not everyone is going to have that assumption. You are saying that you have that assumption with getting Netflix.
Everybody had that assumption when Netflix was
Really?
out. Yeah.
I'll need to see evidence for that. I don't think so.
Nathan, save me. He won't.
You're in this time.
When Netflix first launched, the whole big draw of it was you could watch not anything, but mostly whatever you were interested in, and you could watch all of it. You know, and it's the same thing. It's the same thing why people bought DVD collections. People want to be able to watch what they want to watch when they want to watch it as much as they want to watch it.
Okay, so what you're describing there is the advantage of streaming services, period, not just like Netflix binge model release.
Not really.
But the thing is, you have that with weekly release. Once it's out, it's there. You can watch it whenever you want, whenever you
That's true, but if we're paying for the same service, you can watch it how you want it right off the bat. I can't. I have to wait a 2-month period or a month period or however many episodes there are until they're all out. If they're all dropped at once, you can watch it weekly. I
don't know.
cannot.
To me, that's saying the same thing as like saying, because this show wasn't released a month earlier, I can't watch it the way I want because I wish I could have watched it in September versus
That's not the same
November.
thing. It's not the same
September,
thing.
October. To me, there's a similarity because reason why I equated to the release thing is because if you want to binge it, you just have to wait a whole month. And you're saying that's unfair because I got to wait a whole month to watch it. That's kind of the same thing as me saying it's unfair that this was released a month later than when I preferred.
It's not the same thing. It's because you have to wait for things to release just
Period.
in everything. Yeah, period. But once it's released or it's releasing, you can watch. I can't. But if it's all...
you can watch it. You can't watch it the way you want, but that's the same as me saying I can't watch it the way I want if it's binge release because I prefer weekly. Don't
you can watch one a week. You
no,
have that choice.
No, because there are issues. It's the whole thing is released, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and there are issues with me trying to watch it one a week. Okay, because reviews are already out. People are already talking about later episodes. I can't catch up with reviewing it. Like for instance, Wednesday Addams Family, perfect example. If I reviewed one episode at a time, by the time I get even to the second episode, people will be checking out because with the binge, the buzz happens in the first week that it's gone and then it dies off because everyone's watched the whole season already. But with the weekly release, that buzz and interest continues and the discussion continues. And I enjoy that. I enjoy being able to think about an episode, even rewatch it and really kind of process it. As it moves on to the next episode that's released on the next week. And I actually do enjoy that as a viewer. And I actually don't get that. I can't experience it the same way I would like to if it's released on Binge.
Again, but I'm trying to bring it into more like from a fair perspective, not disregarding the outside influences of like spoilers and stuff. I'm just trying to talk about it like purely based on choice as us as viewers, what we're paying for. You can enjoy it.
Hang on. Again, what you're paying for, no, this is important because it's an important point and you need to address it because what you're paying for, I mean, what you're paying for is whatever the company says this is what you get for what you're paying for. You can't say, but I thought I was going to get something else if the company's... Because, for instance, okay, let's take your belief that... Everyone who signed up for Netflix believes that they're signing up for the binge model.
Every single person.
Yeah, but most,
the
even
majority.
most people.
That
okay?
is the understanding.
Netflix is still in its prerogative to say we're changing what we're offering for the money that you're purchasing.
Yeah, and then
you get to So you would be getting what you're paying for because they get to say this is what you get for what you pay for.
Yes, but they haven't done that, and they still release Binge.
Or they'll probably change it though. And when they do.
People are going to go.
Yeah, but so the thing is, though, you were trying to say that you're not getting what you paid for with a weekly release, but Netflix, what company has said you will get a binge model and then only gives you weekly release? Like, what company is not giving you what you paid for? And that's...
Well, I know, like, for example, if we use HBO or Disney Plus, I know that I'm going to get a weekly release there. So
you get what you pay for then.
But I don't pay for either of them because I...
Oh, yeah, but if you did... hypothetically, if you did... So would you not pay for a streaming service that was weekly release? Like, if Netflix changed it, would you not pay for it?
100%.
Well, perfect. Then you don't have any complaints, do you?
There is no... Like, that's what I want, and if they're not going to provide that, then I'm not going to pay for it. That's it.
You would still watch the shows, or if it was a great show that you really wanted to watch, you'd find a way to watch it. Arr.
Maybe.
But that's like, you still get to enjoy the show the way that you like.
Yes.
And by the way, like, the business obviously has to pay for the streaming services, and so I would, give you a login or review the show that you're reviewing. Yeah.
My boss pays for all that stuff.
Yes.
It's business time. But it still comes for me. All right, so I'm big on freedom.
Yes.
We'll put a big American flag up, like freedom, yeah. And it comes down to the crux of the issue where if we're both paying for the same service and we can't watch it the same way, then you get more choice, I don't.
Well, hang on, because if we're both paying for the same service and the service is very clear of what it's giving for what you're paying for,
and it's a binge model. We're on like Netflix.
Or on Netflix.
Yeah, we're on Netflix for this discussion.
But you're saying I'm not getting what I would pay for if I was like so dead set. I wish it was only on weekly releases, right? And I don't
Right.
have that option. I don't have that freedom. Then.
But you do have that option because you can go, okay, today's Monday.
No, but for the reasons that I explained before, it's actually impossible to get what I would like out of a weekly release with a binge release because, like I said, all the discussion happens really quickly. Everyone watches that they binge the whole season, as that's the whole benefit of it, and so I cannot experience the show for the way that I truly enjoy, where we get to really think about the show, let things. I guess have the discussion per episode, everything. Like I said, I really enjoy it. I can't enjoy that because everyone else is binging.
Okay.
Most people are.
Okay. So, what would be your hypothetical solution?
Watch it the way you want.
Right. Okay. So So let's just say you're on HBO and I'm on Netflix, and we both get the same show. I get it all at once. You get it weekly. Would you be alright with that?
Well, it depends.
Two different services.
Well, like it goes back to the same discussion that you can't get what you want then, because if you binge the whole thing, right, I can't experience the show because I can't interact with you episode by episode. You've binged it, right? And so
Right.
I simply don't have that freedom. If
Right.
it's released with the option to binge it at the same time.
I just don't know if you can use that logic, because by that logic, it's like, well, what if someone doesn't like the show? You can't talk to them about it because they don't like it. Or what if they have no interest in it? So well, then you can't talk to them because they don't have no interest.
Yeah, but there's a possibility to find large groups of people, right, who do like the show. But see, the thing is, though, if a show is binged, right,
Yeah.
it's very likely most people will binge it. Is that true?
I don't know. I actually do not know because I binge, so I'm going to binge it.
A
but-
good show has a tendency to make you want to watch the next one instantly.
Yeah, because it's a good show
It's a
and
good
you
show.
want more. Yes?
Yeah,
Exactly.
but as a result, because of that kind of I need to see what's next, it does rob you of the enjoyment of the discussion per episode, let things rest, and all that stuff.
I'm fine
Like-
with that trade-off, personally.
But see,
But
other people.
So,
aren't.
so
but
let me ask you this, because something that binging allows you to do rather than a weekly release, on average, is it allows you to detect writing. Because if something doesn't make sense, you're able to tell because things flow straight away.
I don't know. You could tell bad writing from first episodes
Well,
pretty easily. Like that are indicative of the whole season.
Well, there's been plenty of, like, let's use movies as an example. There's movies where one movie ends and then 2 years later the next one releases, and most people don't realize how terrible the writing is because it's been 2 years since they watched the last movie.
Sorry, how terrible the writing is in the new movie that was released.
Yeah.
See, for me, I for instance, Jack Reacher with Tom Cruise, is that or is it's because there's multiple. No, there's Jack Reacher, then there's Tom Clancy. I don't know. It's the one with Tom Cruise, right? It was one of those.
Very specific. Very easy
What's
to
the
narrow
one that
down.
was released on Amazon and it has the really buff guy in it?
I think it is Jack Reacher.
Is it Jack Reacher? And then Tom Cruise has a Jack Reacher.
Yeah, there's a
Okay.
different one.
Anyway, the first one was really fun. Second one was crap.
Mm.
Okay, bad writing. And you could tell the quality difference pretty easily, even though they're released separately.
Yeah.
Though the thing is, though, I think we have gotten stuck in the weeds because even though I feel what you're saying is valid a bit, right?
Stuck in the weeds.
Yes, because I think ultimately your preference is irrelevant to the larger, more significant point of what is more beneficial for the business, okay, for the company releasing it. Because you can't ignore, like
We
we've
can't
agreed.
sit here and say Disney is the devil, Disney is all this, and then go, oh, but it's good for Disney's business to release it weekly. Like,
No, but for any like anyone who wants to release a TV series, right? They would want to be informed and know what release model has the highest chances to bring them the most success, and it's weekly.
do you still watch cable, like normal
Like
television?
let's talk about subscription models. Okay.
yep.
Binge model, right? People can watch the entire season with a single month subscription, cancel it, done.
Yep.
But if you release weekly by weekly, you will, by necessity, at least get 2 months subscription for the people who want to watch the whole thing, if not 3. And so you're going to get more money out of that just objectively in that release model, which financial standpoint is the way better option.
I don't know, because this is one of those arguments where it's very anecdotal and it can go either way, because there are a lot of people who just sign up for subscription services and then never cancel it because they just can't be
Yeah, but
bothered.
no, there are a
pe-
lot of people that
there
sign
are
up for
people
just
that
a month.
sign up for just a month to watch a show. There are also people who just sign up for 2 months to watch a show. So, I mean, I don't know if I would count this because it's just There's
You got to
so much-
count it. This is
But
the
again,
fact that by
I was
weekly
I
release-
was someone who like subscribed to Netflix like a year, and I didn't even watch it just because I couldn't be bothered. So like,
yeah, I know
even-
that's where they get a lot of their money is people forgetting about their
exactly. So you
subscription.
can't just
No, but that is just an additional point. It doesn't contradict that a weekly release will give them more revenue by having it stretched over multiple months, which causes people. Because the thing is, no matter what release, okay, binge or weekly, both models will benefit from the people who have subscribed and forgot about it.
Right.
So that doesn't weigh on either side of the
But then
argument. The argument that actually gives weight are those people who are only subscribing to watch the show.
Right.
And if it's a binge, subscribe, watch, done. And oh, by the way, the other issue about though. This one is interesting. A binge model helps with the sharing it across the high seas, let us say. It's much easier than a weekly model. And I will not say any more on that. But from a business standpoint, one is far more detrimental in protecting their intellectual property than the other.
Good.
Based
So what else? What else have you got?
Well, the point that I was saying about the business models that is you can't just ignore that. That's actually super significant. And from a business standpoint, you know which is better for that. And I get what you're saying that because you have a preference, and I think that preference is valid. You know what you like, but
Thank you for validating me.
I don't think you need my validation. I think you are an individual enough to.
But see, the thing is, I don't think you can make the business argument because as a consumer, I don't care, and most people don't care.
What do you mean?
Like most people don't care what's good for a business.
But they do care if the show gets renewed for a next season. They do care that it's successful and more people enjoy it.
Right,
they do
but-
care that the fan base grows. Like I love House of Dragons. I think it's great that other people realize it's great, and the bigger the fan base, the better. And so the model that facilitates greater capacity to grow that fan
Again,
base is good.
There's plenty of shows that have been cancelled that were great. and were
Exceptions
good.
are norm. That from the business standpoint, they would have higher chances to be even bigger on the weekly model.
I don't know. Because I can think of a lot of exceptions. So it's
No. Those aren't actually exceptions. Yeah, they did well, but they would do better with the weekly. Objectively.
it's so hard to quantify.
I
in
don't
that
think. No, I
regard.
think it's quite easy because whatever, like Squid Game, okay?
It was worldwide, a phenomenon.
Yeah.
Period. Like,
but if it was weekly release, they get to almost try and repeat that reaction where that episode was really good, lots of talk about it, right? And then next week, another bang episode. Holy crap, did you see that? And then it re-energizes the discussion about it. And then another week, bang again. Where with Squid Game, it had a really slow burn because there was so little discussion about it, and it was only people that eventually got. But if you had the weekly release and people getting to it, and then even if you're saying that they uniquely benefited off the binge model, once it's all released, it goes into binge model territory
but
anyway.
it just keeps coming back to the main point that it's about choice for me. Like, I just don't care about the business aspect. It's okay. Like, it's I can admit, yes, it's a valid point for money, sure.
But
as
can
a
you admit
viewer,
that is more-
as a viewer experience, I hate it.
Okay, but all right. So I've explained how it's pretty hard for me to experience the show with what you get out of a weekly release when it's released as a binge.
Yeah.
Okay, and I can even though I probably can already preempt and see what you feel you don't get out of a weekly release, what you get out of a binge model, but what do you feel you're not getting out of it if you could wait for the whole season to be released and then binge it after it's released?
Well, I
What are
mean-
you getting robbed from?
You could just turn around and use your argument. You're talking about it. You're doing, spoilers, all this sort of stuff, and I haven't watched it. It's
Okay.
the same thing.
Okay, but see, the spoiler thing, I think, can apply to both. Okay,
Yes.
and so
That's why I didn't wanna count it.
They balance each other out and then cancel each other out because both can argue that you could get spoiled if it's one or the other.
No, I
But
just
what
want to say.
about-
I just want to say, personally, I'm going to censor this. I don't give a about spoilers. Like, I'm someone who I'm like, yeah, I love it. Tell me spoilers. I'm cool with it. So
Yeah.
that's me personally. So it doesn't really factor much for me.
Yeah.
Personally, but for other people, yeah.
And so, what about the argument of the experience? Okay, where I can't experience a weekly kind of discussion where renewed interest gets piqued again when the next episode gets released when it's released as binge.
I don't know.
But is there the viewership experience? Are you getting robbed in a viewership experience and being able to binge it once all the episodes are released?
Well, the way I think of that is, you go to the movies and you get 20 minutes of a movie. I mean, for me, the viewership experience is I'm getting the entire story when I sit down to watch it.
I mean, the thing is, I could apply that argument to the single episode, and you get the whole experience of the episode.
Not really, because you're not getting the story. Like,
No, but you get the
it's-
whole story of the episode. Because,
Yeah.
like, TV shows are made to give an arc, a story in one episode. Like, episodes are like...
That's true,
and
but
so
they
it-
more
it-
often
it-
than not end in a way
it's
where...
more valid to compare a movie to an episode than a movie to a season.
But then you do, at the end, you have things like cliffhangers, and then you also have, like, after... What is it, like the teasers for what's coming next?
That can
and all
happen in movies.
Marvel movies,
Yes.
yeah. Marvel movies, yeah.
Yes. Look
But
at-
not most movies.
Dune.
But Dune is
Cliffhangers.
yeah, Dune is a
Two-parters.
Yeah. There are exceptions.
Yes, there are.
But it's just it comes down to the choice aspect for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel as though you're being robbed from anything except for external things.
That's what I wanted to try and find out. What are you getting robbed from with binging it once the whole thing is released? Because you get to binge it, you get to experience all. I guess the only thing is that you don't really get to watch it at the time that you would have liked to, which is
Well, it's more that
because you don't
someone-
care about spoilers. You're saying,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that's
but
not. An
that's
issue.
more of a personal thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but most people would feel if we're paying for the same service, we should be able to watch it how we
Well,
like
that's
it.
why the service will only do one or the other.
Yeah, exactly.
But so there won't ever be a case where we get something different for what we pay for.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
So that's not an argument that then's valid. And so I feel like, because I want to knuckle down on this point, is like, I want to find out if you actually are getting the experience that you want by being able to binge it when it's all released.
Well, like I said, if it's all released at once,
Mm-hmm.
we all of us have the choice of how we want to watch it at that point, how we want to consume that media.
Well,
but if it's
remember,
released
my
weekly,
comparison-
only
and
one side gets to choose how they want to.
Well, no. What I'm trying to say is, and I could be wrong about this, I want to say is like, if it's released as a binge, it's almost impossible for me to experience and enjoy the show the way that I'd like to if it was released weekly, because well, for all the reasons I gave, right? But are you getting robbed at the experience that you would like if you waited for the whole season to be released and then binged it? Like, what experience are you getting robbed once it's there?
I know what point he's about to make when I make my point. So I want to be very clear about this. The average person will assume pays for a subscription service ongoing. Let's just assume that, because most people do. Now, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of people who just pay for what they want to watch. That is fair too. But most people generally subscribe to a service so it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
I'm paying more money over a longer period of time to not watch what I want while you can. That's the thing, right?
Yeah, it doesn't answer the experience thing, because what you could do is not, like, for instance, you could actually save more money, right? No.
I knew you were going to make this point. No,
Do you want to explain the point?
Well, you want to make the point that you can just stop and pay so we get the same parity. Because if I
Yeah.
stop...
So, because
and-
again, if you want to binge it, you
yes,
just wait for it
and-
all released.
And that's why I made the point that most people, in general, pay for an ongoing service. They don't just stop and start. Now, that does happen, of course.
Yeah.
It's just...
But then that goes into what the business says you get with your subscription. It does. It comes back to that. I mean, you're saying I'm not getting what I pay for, but the business gets to say this is
Yes,
what you
but
get what you pay
if
for.
we're talking about Netflix, then it's understood.
But they can change that whatever they want. And it'll be better for them business-wise.
I
Then
already know which points he's going to make and where he's going to try and go with it.
But what's funny here is then we've kind of come into a circular kind of argument.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that, because I do understand your point better. But I do see with that, and so that might bring us to the end of the discussion. Great discussion. I have very much enjoyed it.
Leave a comment and tell us. I'm sure you'll furiously tell us with great vigor whether you are for a weekly or binge. Now, if you're for weekly, it's okay. Some of us are a bit slower than others. But if you're a binger, then we're on the same team. Good job.
You are clearly the smart people.
Yes, you are. Those who binge, you are the smart people. Big brain time.
But the weekly is objectively better for business, which makes it better for the consumer, which makes it better for... And we get started again.
We'll just get started again.
We just get started again. Look, thank you guys for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments below. And as always, stay on watch.